Hi, Howard Getson, CEO of Capitalogics. Today I want to talk about functional mapping, or not fighting Mother Nature. So many times as a technology entrepreneur, I have fallen in love with a technology or our own product and thought about what problem can it solve or how am I going to use it. But really, a much better way is to focus on what's happening in the real world. What's a challenge that I can use technology to solve? Or how does technology solve that problem? And so rather than trying to go from the technology to what we're building, it's much more important to understand what's really happening in the business and how technology is going to naturally support what you want to happen. So what I've done is I've looked at our own company and how we use exponential technologies, things like AI, machine learning, big data, elastic computing, and how we use it from the beginning of a process all the way to the end. Before I tell you how that works, let me tell you a brief story. When I was in college, I was in the student government. And one morning I woke up and in the student paper, president of the university had an editorial, and he was very disappointed because the students were walking all over the flowers they had planted. I went to his office and I said, I don't think the students really wanted to walk on your flowers. It's you just opened the new student center and you've got these poles with chains in between them that lead you on a path that used to be right, but now that there's a new exit from that building and your classes are there and your dorms are there, nobody wants to go the way they used to. There's a new natural path. And if you simply look at the path that was carved through the lawn and the garden, you'd figure out that if you paved it, people would stay on the path. They're not really looking to get off it. Well, the same is true in business. So many times an entrepreneur, an executive says, I know, I bought this tool and I want my team to use it. But really, if you just figured out what's naturally happening and support it, not only would you get people to comply, but they'll say thank you. So with this exponential technology in our own company, I broke it down into 5 areas. The first is imagine. The second is create. The third is build. The fourth is test. And the fifth is deploy. It makes so much sense. Let me explain. Imagine's all about a sandbox where people are learning, fiddling, playing, exploring, and creating the infrastructure. We build libraries. We understand how to deal with the underlying data. It's the stuff that you need in order to play with or do more. It's a discovery zone, okay? Step 2 is about creating. You're building something. It could be a tool, a new capability. But ultimately, I look at it almost like a Lego. You're building a Lego. Step 3 is about building. And here you're putting the Legos together. You're starting to take multiple components and say, wow, if I do this with this and that, I can create this. An example's a report, right? You've heard of a report builder. If we run a hedge fund, you might build a portfolio. And you're doing that by taking models and algorithms and testing methods and filters, all these little Legos that we built earlier, and putting them together so we can say, here's how I get a consistent, reliable result. Testing makes total sense. It's a simulation that says, let me look at that, how that did historically, but also live, so that I can compare that to what we already have to see if it's better. So as we come up with a new way to manage the portfolio, I want to be able to see how it did versus what we're already doing or a prior version to figure out, do I push that live? Now, along that way in the testing, we have something called the trade-worthy certification process. It's really QA, and that's where we have somebody look at the technology, they look at the business process, they look at the errors, and they want to make sure that this is something that's consistent, reliable, repeatable, and that it works. But ultimately, when you press the button and say, put it in live, that's the deploy level, and that's saying, this is now our new standard. Anyway, by understanding this, you can start to map out the tools, the capabilities, and the customer success journey that matches the natural flow of what you're going to see. It's going to dramatically increase the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the certainty of adoption and your results. Hope that helps. Thanks.